morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today we are actually going to be looking at the FAQ for Stella Miracle over in Japan. We've not traditionally done this. We've generally waited for the FAQs to come out in English, but I think we're going to start doing this a little bit more now, because especially for Stella Miracle, there are some big rulings that you really need to know about, including one that I've seen a bunch of people posting online. This would never work. How are people making their decks like this? No, it does work. It's in the official FAQ, and let's start there. It's a combination of Wellspring Mask Ogerpon and the new Aspect Tool Sparkling Crystal. You see, what happens is that we've got Sparkling Crystal, this new tool, and it reduces the cost of any Terra Pokemon's attacks by one of any energy. That's very important, because in Twilight Masquerade, we got all of the Ogerpon, including Wellspring Mask Ogerpon. Now, that is a basic Pokemon that has an attack for a water and 2 colorless. But if you use this tool, then all of a sudden it comes down to double colorless, which of course means we can use double turbo energy and pay it straight away. But here's where it gets very interesting, because the attack does 100 to the active, 80 when you bring in the reduction from double turbo energy, and you may shuffle free energy attached to this Pokemon into your deck. If you do, this attack also does 120 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Being able to hit 80 to the active and 120 to the bench, turn 1 going second, is obviously ridiculous. And we've seen this popping up in a bunch of decks. There are a few decks that have actually started to use this, like for instance this control deck, got Snorlax and Bouffalant and all of that, which is actually going ahead and using this with the aim of, hang on a second, I can kind of go nuts with this from turn 1, and of course if this works, well, you shuffle the double turbo back into your deck, but then if you can attach double turbo next turn, you do it again, and round we go. And a lot of people are looking at this and going, well, hang on a second, Wassy. It clearly says you may shuffle 3 energy, and it specifically says free energy, not all the energy, free energy into your deck. If you do, this attack also does 120 to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Here's the thing we need to remember, though. The cards are not designed in English. The cards are designed in Japanese and translated officially into English. So the answer doesn't come from the English card. The answer comes from the Japanese card. Now, the Japanese card literally says, if you wish, you may shuffle free energy from this Pokemon into your deck. If this is the case, Sonobai, you may also do 120 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So the meaning of that phrase, if this is the case, or if that is the case, that is what is very important. Well, it's in the official FAQ, and it is incredibly clear. You can do this. It is right there. It is official. It is in the FAQ. It is 100% official. Literally, Google Translated, it reads, when I use the move Extreme Pump on my Ogerpon EX, which has 2 energy pieces and the Pokemon item tool Shining Crystal attached to it, can I return 2 energy pieces to my deck and also deal 120 damage to one of my opponent's bench Pokemon? Yes, I can. Yes, you're able to do so, literally is what it says. Yeah, it works. It 100% works. There is no if, buts, or maybes here. There is no mucking about. They have interpreted, if that is the case, to mean, essentially, if you've done as much as you can. You have to shovel free energy in, but if you only shovel 2 in, but you can use the attack with 2, then that's fine as well. And I know some people aren't going to like this, and I know some people are going to look at the English card and go, the English card is extremely clear, and you're right, incidentally. The English card does look to be extremely clear, but we're looking at the Japanese card. That is the original version of the card. That is what it is designed as, and it is official in the FAQ. It works. So we're going to have to interpret the English card as reading, if you do shuffle 3 energy or as many as you've got that allows you to do the attack, which I know is not exactly what it says, and I'm sorry about that, but this works. And this makes a huge difference. This makes Wellspring Mask Ogerpon EX a bazillion times better. It is not that hard to find a tool turn 1. It's an ace bet. You can only play 1 in your deck. If it is not prize, it is not that hard to find a tool turn 1. Arvin will find it for you quite nicely. Or if you end up with a different tool, that being Forest Seal Stone, that'll find it for you quite nicely. Or we've got the Stadium Town store that will search it out. And of course, I like the combo here with Forest Seal Stone, because that'll of course go and get your double turbo, which is the other thing which can be awkward to go and grab. But it works. And here's the thing, you put the tool on there, whack double turbo, turn 1, going second, 80 to the active, 120 to the bench. Your opponent has had one turn where they cannot attack or use a supporter card. They are probably not that well set up. This is one of the best arguments I've heard in a very long time for going second. If they haven't got a mana fee down, you are wrecking shop here. And of course, all you do is shuffle double turbo back into your deck. So if you can find double turbo again next turn, you can just do this every turn. As long as you can keep finding double turbo, you can just keep doing this every turn. And there are a bunch of people over in Japan that are doing this right now. And I can confirm, ladies and gentlemen, that it does 100% work. We're also seeing Wellspring Mask Ogerpon pop up in other decks like Palkia. But it is literally a thing now that we're playing decks with this package in because it can work. And I know control decks aren't really supposed to be attacking that much, but I'll tell you what, when you can be doing this from turn 1 going second, especially bearing in mind control decks sometimes have to win quick games, oh, this is a fun option. We're going to see some cheeky wins with this. That is the big ruling that caught my eye. But there are a couple of others that I think we should talk about as well. There's a really obvious one. Remember, we've got the new tree ace spec? The new stadium card, Great Big Tree? Or Majestic Tree is probably what it's actually translated. We've seen a European version of it. We've not actually seen the English version yet, but it's probably going to be Majestic Tree. Because when it says Great Big Tree, it doesn't mean really, really big. It means a big tree that is great. And that lets you basically search your deck to evolve one of your Pokemon into a stage 1, and then if you want a stage 2. Hey, can you use that to go and get Palafin EX? No! We saw this in a previous FAQ. We've been very clear about this. Palafin EX can only be gotten into play with Finazon's ability unless you turn off the ability, in which case you actually can. But other than that, no. You cannot use a tree to get this. Come on, we've done this. But there's a really, 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 really interesting one with Brier, which has also caught my eye here. You see, Brier is phenomenal new card, great new card. We've got an English version of it, which is lovely. You can use this card only if your opponent has exactly 2 prizes remaining. During this turn, if your opponent's active Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an attack used by your Terra Pokemon, take 1 more prize card. Now, the question here is basically, what if your opponent's got 2 prize cards remaining? You play this, and then you knock out your own Pokemon, or a Pokemon gets knocked out in some way on your turn, so that your opponent then goes down to 1 prize card remaining. Does Brier still let you take an extra prize if you take a KO? Huge question, because right now over in Japan, you will see a lot of decks that are playing the combination of Brier, Charizard, and Dusknoir. Very, very important. Because Dusknoir lets you KO it to drop 13 damage counters. Charizard does an extra 30 damage for each prize card your opponent's taken. And it's a Terra Pokemon, so you can take extra prizes with Brier. And yes, there are a bunch of people out there playing Charizard decks with Dusknoir because it's great in Charizard decks, and Brier because of the whole taking an extra prize. I have looked at a lot of Charizard decks over the past, few days since it became legal, and basically all of them are playing one Dusknoir and one Brier. So make no mistake about it, this is a phenomenally important ruling, and I feel very confident all of you are going to see this ruling come up in a game at some point over the next couple of years. Brier still works. If you play Brier with your opponent having 2 prize cards remaining, the effect is on. If you then have a Pokemon KO'd such that your opponent doesn't have 2 prizes remaining, it doesn't matter because the effect of Brier has already been activated and it doesn't go away. Huge ruling, because now with Charizard you play Brier, put your opponent down to 1 prize card remaining, you're then hitting 330, much better number, and you get to take an extra prize. This ruling is huge, ladies and gentlemen. You definitely need to be aware of this one, because people are going to use this to win games, and their opponent's going to be like, nah, mate, that doesn't work. I've only got 1 prize remaining now. Doesn't matter. It's how many prizes are there at the point Brier is activated. Now, there are also a bunch of questions regarding Area Zero Underdepths, which is a very important new card. They're all pretty straightforward, so we're going to go through them nice and quickly here, but these are rulings you have absolutely got to be aware of. So, what happens if Glimmora EX is in play and there is Area Zero Underdepths? Because Glimmora's got an ability that says your opponent can only have 3 bench Pokemon. The answer is your opponent can only have 3 bench Pokemon. It will override Area Zero Underdepths, so your opponent will only be allowed to have 3 bench Pokemon. Gutted. What if your opponent has got an Area Zero Underdepths in play, and you've got a full bench of 5 Pokemon? If you had a Terra Pokemon, you'd be allowed 8. So can you play a Terra Pokemon? No. If you've got a Terra Pokemon down, you can have 8 bench Pokemon, but you cannot play a Terra Pokemon if you've already got a full bench of 5 to essentially unlock it. And along a similar way, the Pidgey from 151's got Call for Family. Lets you go and grab 2 basic Pokemon. Well, if you've got 4 bench Pokemon, can you use Pidgey to go and grab yourself a Terastal Pokemon to unlock with Area Zero Underdepths the extra spaces, and then a second one? No. You are searching for both of them at the same time. If you've only got 1 bench space and no Terra Pokemon down, you can only go and get 1. You cannot go and get a Terastal Pokemon and another to unlock it. It doesn't work. And the last one here, which is actually really important, if Area Zero Underdepths is on the field and your only Terastal Pokemon is active and KO'd, do you put a new Pokemon active and then discard until you've got 5 bench Pokemon? Or do you discard until you got 5 bench Pokemon and then put a new Pokemon active? Very important, of course, because it will, if you get to promote first, that will save one of your bench Pokemon. And the answer here, you should know, is you don't promote first. You finish up, and then after the attack is all concluded, then you put a new Pokemon up. So you do have to, you'll essentially end up with 4 bench Pokemon, not 5, because you discard down to 5, and then you put a Pokemon active, and you've got 4 remaining. And again, this is a very big ruling, because Area Zero Underdepths, from everything I can see in Japan, Area Zero Underdepths is going to see a phenomenal amount of play, and this is going to be a big issue. A lot of people just playing 1 Terastal Pokemon so they can take advantage of this. These are huge rulings. This ruling, the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon, and the Brier ruling, they will come up in games. These aren't things that you need to know because they could come up. These are things that are essential to know because they 100% will come up. But you know them now because you've just watched this video. So now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about all of these. Tell me if you're thinking about using any of these cards. Tell me if any of these surprised you. Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. And get shout-outs on the channel like the lovely It's a Coaster, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now, is active in the Discord, and is a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing is always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.